Oh, hey y'all. I see BAP sent everybody over. I hope y'all stay with me. Hey, this is going to be a very interesting segment, y'all. Because the more I research, the more I find stuff, and the more we can um analyze and fix things. And I found out a lot of interesting things that these historical societies. First, let me say this before I even start, because we need to know this and understand this. Hey, shout out to everybody in the chat that joined me. Love y'all, man. And I hope y'all really find this segment interesting, because it's interesting and it's wild. And there are millions of unanswered questions. And researching, I found out a lot of information how we can correct this matter. And this is the truth, y'all. All these historical societies, here's what I want you to know. All these historical societies that teach historical information, they're 501c3 organizations. And you can't sue them if they um, put out false information, even if it's on your history. You can't sue them because it's based on their research and their interpretation of historical information. And that's a fact. But what we can do is create our own 501c3s and teach our communities, and we can't be sued either. And the reason why the historical societies can't be sued and we can't get upset, we can only fix it. Yes, it's disturbing and upsetting when someone else is putting information out, and a lot of people around the world believe the historical society's information that they have. But it's up to us to correct it. And one of the things you can do is you can write a letter. I mean, the folks in the historical societies are not mean people, okay? You can write them to correct information. But me, I know that I can write them a letter and um join their organization as a member, but I don't want to do that because I I as well as you, we want to put our own information out to our truth, okay? And what protects us for our truth is the First Amendment speech. Literally, historical societies information is protected by the First Amendment speech. Okay, First Amendment right, freedom of speech. And when you create your own 501c3 and you begin teaching your community and communities across the world, you're protected too. So we don't have to fight them, we don't have to combat them. I like to do things civilly. This is why they have these organizations, so we can do things civilly. And if we as a people start creating our own historical societies, then our people in our communities, they will believe ours. Because right now, our people and people around the world only have the historical society information created by these different 501c3 historical organizations to believe it to be true until we step in. And then we have to be the ones. It's always been us. When you think in a civil manner, you begin to learn it's always been us. Okay? So for many years, no one taught our people that they should create these organizations to teach our history. So now, fast forward in my time, in our time, you have people like myself to tell you, look, we don't have to put up armed guards and create a war over our history. We can just simply teach it ourselves. And our historical information gives people around the world an opportunity to look at our information. Okay. And we can make it make sense. So, what I'm going to do is lecture you today on information that I pulled up from Historical Society. That is a 501c3. And we can correct it for what is ever wrong, because there's a lot of questions in it that don't make it make sense. And we're going to see that together. This is the part that I like about we can do this together and brainstorm and fix what sounds right and what makes sense. With me? So I'm not going to get long-winded here. I'm going to go straight to the information. Let's get it, y'all. Women who own their husbands, and this is way back in the 1600s, and we're going to focus today in Virginia. Hey, Susan. Hey, everybody in the chat. There's so many of y'all out there. I love y'all, and I just want y'all to vibe with me right now, because you can correct things. We can correct it. And let's go through these slides, and so our heads can say, wow, and we can make it make sense. But always keep in your head that we can always correct it. We can. So let's go. Let's get it, y'all. So this, of course, is the statute, and this is the statute in Virginia. We're going to focus in Virginia, okay, because that's one of the earliest places where English came. So, but these are historical statutes to be true, okay, in the Virginia Museum of History and Culture. And it's one of the few public representations that reflect the actual descriptions from early English accounts, not the latter whitewashed versions. You'll notice the broad nose and the full lips, the dark brown skin, strong regal posture. This aligns with what colonists described in the 1600s, that Powhatan people had dark brown to black skin, coily or woolly hair in some groups, and features that colonists compared to Africans. Let's keep going, y'all. This is his daughter, Pocahontas. If you look at her arms, they're giving you, and this really touched my heart the more I read into it. And it gives you a sort of peace in your soul. And it takes you away from Africa. And only we can do that to our people's minds. Correct them. Not that we hate Africans, but the truth is the truth. Okay? Let's keep going, y'all. So when it comes to the Virginia Encyclopedia, here's information that I found out before I go, further into our lecture. But this is important. Encyclopedia Virginia is overseen and updated by Virginia Humanities. That's a 501c3 organization. Encyclopedia Virginia is a program of Virginia Humanities. Entries are written by scholars, edited for accuracy, and fact-checked by the EV editorial team. That means Encyclopedia Virginia. So the organization responsible for maintaining and updating the site include the Free Blacks and Colonial Virginia. Entry is Virginia Humanities. And they're headquartered in Charlottesville, Virginia, at the University of Virginia. Who oversees the updates to Encyclopedia Virginia? The managing editor is Patty Miller. She oversees content updates, editorial standards, accuracy, new entries, and revisions. The project director is Peter Hunlin. He oversees the digital platform, technical updates, site infrastructure. And the founding director is Mark Gibson. He established the editorial model and standards EV still uses. So how entries get updated? Entries are written by scholars and reviewed before publication. They are fact-checked and updated as new research becomes available. EV's mission is to provide a reliable multimedia scholarly resource on Virginia history. So updates are not random. They follow a formal editorial process. In short, the updates to the page are overseen by Virginia Humanities, the parent organization, Patty Miller, Peter Hunlin, a team of scholars, editors, and fact checkers working under them. The direct contact information, and they have this. You can contact them here. The email for Virginia Humanities is right here if you want to write them. I'm not going to go crazy. This is their mailing address. You can write them a professional letter. But me personally, myself, I'm not going to write them because I already have a 501c3 and I know what I can do is what I'm doing now. Number one, I have a newspaper and I have Wire, and we can correct history. We are protected by First Amendment speech. So in order to get our community to wake up, we need to establish professional organizations so our people can see us professionally lecturing them and teaching them and keeping a track of our history. This is something our community needs. They need reliable resources that keep this information updated for them so that they have something to look to regarding our history, and they have somewhere to send our children to look and learn about their history. And the professional way to do that is to create what we have, create a bunch of them. And you can do that yourself and keep the information up for them. Our children are going to grow up to be adults just like us. And we have our truth. We feel our truth and we know our truth. So we should teach our truth. We are truly protected by the First Amendment. Okay. Of course, this is the details, like I said, of contacting the Virginia Society, if you dare to care, but I don't, because I know I'm creating our own, and ours are going to be phenomenal. We're actually going to have structures that we can walk in and learn our history. I'm not these other YouTube content creators. That's not a woman of her word. It's going to take some time for us to get our facilities up, but I can tell you this, they're going up. And they're going to go up in the area where my ancestors came from. And a lot of our ancestors came from. And it's going to be in Virginia. South Carolina. South Carolina. My family is not from Virginia. My family is from South Carolina. And as we go further into this lecture, you're going to see some really great stuff. So let's keep going. So we have a picture of a woman who owns her husband. And we have to fix issues like this. So let's just keep going. So Jane Webb, she was a free Black woman, and her enslaved husband, whose his name was Left. They called him Left. Yo, Left, what up? We still keep that same tradition, y'all. So that's why I had that picture up there like that. In 1703 and through 1725. This is real, y'all. Jane Webb was a free woman of color in early 1700s Virginia. She married a man named Left, who was enslaved by a white planter named Thomas Savage. Their marriage was legally recognized. Rare for the time, they had 7 children, all born free because of the doctrine Pater Secutor Ventrum, which means status follows the mother. Jane Webb spent over 20 years in court fighting for her husband's freedom. Wait till you find out where the court is. She sued Savage in 1725 in a chancery case after decades of legal wrangling. Free Black women often had to navigate a system where their husbands were legally property. They used the courts contracts, and legal ownership structures to protect their families. Marriage across free and slave status created complex legal situations. And I got a bunch of women who own their husbands, but the list is so long that I'm not going to go through them today. I'll pick another day because I have women from Virginia, Louisiana, South Carolina. We'll just go over that list and you'll see why. In the 1700s, enslavement, a person was legally treated as property, not a person. That meant you could be bought, you could be sold, you could be inherited, you could be willed in an estate, you could be rented out, you could be seized for debt, you had no legal standing in court, you could not testify against a white person, you could not own land, you could not choose where to live, and your children inherited your status. It was a legal condition, not a physical one. Now, check this out, y'all. Wait till you find out where this court was. And this is a hot mess, y'all. This was not Powhatan Court. We're going to get to where this little piece of land. Oh, my goodness. Come on, let's just keep going. I just put this up to get your laugh on. And the little funny thing, girl, you know I got him laughing at my ass off. She in the court with her husband left. I just threw that up there. But here's the part most people don't know. In the early 1700s, enslaved did not only mean Africans in Virginia. Indigenous people were enslaved. Indigenous children were enslaved. Indigenous prisoners of war were enslaved. Indigenous people were labeled Negro, mulatto, or servant for life. This was especially true for 1720. So when you see enslaved in early Virginia records, it includes Powhatan, Nottoway, Merrim, Saponi, Occaneechi, Monacan, and other dark-skinned Indian nations. The English didn't care about the difference. They cared about labor and control. For indigenous people, enslaved meant something slightly different. Indigenous enslavement often came from war, raids, kidnapping, colonial retaliation, death, being captured while traveling. Some indigenous people were enslaved for life. Some were enslaved for a term. Some were sold to the Caribbean. Some were reclassified as free people of color. This is why so many early free people of color were indigenous. Listen, y'all. In the 1700s, enslaved was a legal category, not a racial one. It meant you were legally owned. Your body was not yours. Your labor was not yours. Your children were not yours. And the law backed that up. Why large-scale African importation into 1600s to 1700s Virginia was impossible under Powhatan sovereignty. The English, number one, the English did not have free access to Powhatan territory in the 1600s, early 1700s. During this period, listen, y'all, I need y'all to pay attention. The Powhatan Confederacy controlled most of Tidewater, Virginia. The English were confined to small coastal pockets. Y'all listen. They needed permission to move inland. Chief controlled who could enter their territory. Listen, I'm going to read this again. Listen. This is why it was impossible for large-scale African. Listen. Number one, the English did not have free access to Powhatan territory in the 1600s, early 1700s. During this period, the Powhatan Confederacy controlled most of the Tidewater, Virginia. The English were confined to small coastal pockets. They needed permission to move inland. Chiefs controlled who could enter their territory. Foreigners, including Europeans and Africans, could not simply walk into Powhatan land. The idea of English importing large numbers of Africans into Powhatan-controlled territory does not match the political reality. The English didn't control the land. They didn't control the roads. They didn't control the rivers. They didn't control the interior. The Powhatan did. And that's a fact. The Powhatan did. I'm going to say it again. The idea of the English importing large numbers of Africans into Powhatan-controlled territory does not match the political reality. The English didn't control the land. They didn't control the roads. They didn't control the rivers. They didn't control the interior. The Powhatans did. Number two, the only documented Africans in early Virginia were the 20 and odd in 1619. Even that group was small, was not placed deep in Powhatan territory. They were kept in the English coastal enclave, was not moved inland. They was not inland. Was not numerous enough to change the population. There is no record of thousands of Africans entering Virginia in the 1600s. Not in the 1610s, not in the 1620s, not in the 1630s, not in the 1640s, not in the 1650s. The English simply did not have the power or the land access to bring in large numbers. We're going to keep going. Oh, Happy New Year. Oh, happy day. Happy New Year. Let's get it. Number three, the 1700s record shows something interesting. Most Negro, mulatto, and free people of color were indigenous. By the early 1700s, Powhatan people, Nottoway, Namsadan, Chickahominy, Rappahannock, Pamunkey, Matabani, and other Algonquin and Sioux nations were being reclassified on paper as Negro, mulatto, and free people of color. Let's keep going, y'all. This was not because they were African. It was because the English controlled the records, not the land. The English used racial labels to erase indigenous identity, but they did it on their own little land. So when you see Negro in the 1700s Virginia records, it does not mean African. It often means dark-skinned indigenous, mixed indigenous communities, Indian families refusing English rule, Indian people living outside English towns. This is why the population numbers don't match the African importation narrative. 5. It made no sense for the English to bring Africans into land they did not control. The English could not move Africans inland, settle Africans in Powhatan territory, force Africans into indigenous communities, override Powhatan authority. Facts. It's only a few, there was only a few of them. How are they going to bombard Powhatan, the most fierce Indian tribe? Let's just keep going. They couldn't do it, y'all. When we read and research, it make more sense, and we have to make it make sense. Let's keep going. So the idea of thousands of Africans in the 1600s, early 1700s Virginia is not supported. It's not supported by land control, political reality, indigenous sovereignty, English weakness, population records, shipping logs, court documents. The people the English later called Negro or mulatto were overwhelmingly indigenous. Now, listen to this, y'all. Here's we go. Here's the courts established in Virginia. The Council Court, 1607. The first court in Virginia was the governing council at Jamestown. Now we're going to find out. See, everybody think of Jamestown as this big-ass municipality. Nope. Listen. This court was run by the Virginia Company Council and operated inside the Jamestown settlement because that was the only English-controlled area in 1607. The council met in early fort buildings and later in the state houses that repeatedly burned down. Created in 1607, members appointed by the Virginia Company in London, they acted as judges, executive leaders, and jury all at once. They tried criminal cases, disputes, and even executed people. This was the only court during the earliest years of the colony. Now we're going to learn what Jamestown was. It was a swamp. Y'all, it wasn't in the area y'all think. When the colony stabilized, the English created a higher court, location Jamestown, 1619 to 1699 in Williamsburg. The general court met in various buildings in Jamestown, the state houses, the governor's house, and local taverns when buildings burned. So, y'all listen now. We're talking in the 1600s, right? There are buildings there. So how in the fuck can you tell me that these buildings were there before they came here in the 1600s? So how are you going to tell me that the Powhatans was running around in little diapers, white diapers and feathers and bows and arrows? How the fuck they build them buildings? I'm being a potty mouth now on New Year's, but we got to make this shit make sense. It don't make no sense. Let's go back a second. This don't make no sense. This is why we got to correct it. And like I said, 501c3s have a right to report lies, whatever they want. They're protected by the First Amendment speech. If we want our history to make sense to our children and future generations, we got to start it so they could keep it ongoing. Otherwise, this is going to be a continued ongoing lie. They're already giving themselves away by talking about buildings and facilities that was here before they came. Let's keep going. I think we passed this already. Yep. Oh, wait. Now, the House of Burgess was not a court, but it created laws and courts enforced locations, Jamestown and Williamsburg onward, Jamestown State Houses later. First Representative Assembly of America became the lower house of the legislature. These laws shape this is bull. I'm just going to keep going. Local manorial courts, early 1600s. Before county courts were formalized, listen, plantation owners and company officials held. These were not centralized courts. They were held on private plantations. Listen, y'all. Company-owned estates and manorial lands. These were informal but powerful. They handled disputes among servants, discipline, labor issues. These faded as county courts took over. Let's keep going. Special courts. Wherever the governor appointed them, usually in major administrative centers. These courts were special criminal courts convened by the governor. So they typically met in Jamestown or Williamsburg. They followed the seat of the government, and the colony grew. Virginia added Oyer and Terminer courts. For serious crimes, judges appointed by the governor could impose capital punishment. Admiralty courts for maritime disputes, smuggling, shipwrecks, trade violations. These were more specialized and came later. Let's keep going, y'all. This is a hot mess, I'm telling you. Admiralty court, late 1600s. Port towns and the capital, especially Jamestown, Williamsburg, coastal ports like Hampton Roads. Admiralty courts handle maritime law, so they operated where shipping and trade occurred. They were run by crown-appointed officials, which means they followed the administrative centers. Let's keep going, y'all. And this is just like a little breaks down where their courts were, the primary locations. So now we're going to find out the funny shit in a minute. Come on. All this will be on the website for y'all to look at. The Powhatan territory versus English courts, 1600s, early 1700s. The land the English claimed on paper, huge, sweeping all the way to the Pacific, drawn on maps, used to justify laws. The land the English actually controlled, listen, y'all, this is the land that they actually controlled. I'm going to put it all in the chat, Smoke. The land the English actually controlled. Tiny coastal pockets, fragile settlements surrounded by indigenous nations. Now, keep y'all, this is getting crazy. They're telling you the actual land that they own. They didn't really own shit. Tiny coastal pocket. Listen, y'all, this is where their court was and everything. Y'all about to find this out. A hot mess. Okay, number one. Council Court, 1607. Location, Jamestown. Territory, inside Powhatan land. Yo. Jamestown was literally built inside the Powhatan Confederacy. Let's get it, y'all. The English had no control beyond the fort walls. So this court existed only because Powhatan allowed the English to stay alive. Let's get it, y'all. Territory. Jamestown, 1619, 1699. Williamsburg, 1699 onward. Territory. Jamestown equal Powhatan territory. Williamsburg equals still surrounded by indigenous nations. Even when the capital moved, the English were still in a thin strip of land along the coast. County courts. Location, each county seat. Territory, only in English-controlled pockets. The first counties were all coastal. Listen, y'all, this is where they was at. The first counties were all coastal, river-based, carved out of Powhatan land, surrounded by indigenous towns. Examples: Northampton County, where Jane Webb's home was on their eastern shore, Algonquin territory. This is where Jane Webb's home was. York, James City, Henrico, all carved out of Powhatan land. Accomack, indigenous territory. County courts did not operate in land. They strayed where the English had settlements. Again, county courts, they didn't operate in land. They stayed where the English had settlements. Let's keep going. Now, these little pocket lands was like wetlands, y'all. It was not. It was, they gave them that because they were good there for the trading purposes. But Powhatan let them do that. They let them stay alive. Why the English couldn't import Africans into indigenous controlled Carolinas. The Carolinas were overwhelmingly indigenous territory in the 1600s and 1700s. This is the part most historians skip. The Carolinas were home to more indigenous nations than almost anywhere on the East Coast, including Catawba, Yamasee, Tuscarora, Waccamaw, Petee, Waxhaw, Wateree, Cheraw, Saponi, Occoneechee, Cape Fairchild, and Lumbee ancestors. This is some real shit, y'all. Many Sioux, Algonquin, and Muskegon nations. These nations control, listen, the rivers, the trade routes, the interior land, the hunting grounds, the political alliances. The English did not control the Carolinas beyond a few coastal points. The English did not have the power to move Africans inland. Even if Africans arrived at the coast, the English could not march them inland, settle them in indigenous territory, force them into Indian communities, and override Indian sovereignty. Indigenous nations controlled the interior so completely that English traders needed permission to travel. English settlements were constantly attacked. English forts were destroyed. English colonists were pushed back to the coast. Thank you, Bridget. So the idea of the English importing Africans into the Carolinas in the way textbooks describe is not realistic. They had no inland power, and that's a fact. So why do shipping records show Africans arriving in the Carolinas? Because the English only controlled one thing: Charleston, a fortified coastal port, y'all. Founded by Barbadian planters, backed by British Crown, protected by the Royal Navy, designed as a slave trading port, not an inland colony, y'all. The English controlled the harbor, not the land. A slave ship only needs a harbor, a fort, a dock. It does not require inland control. So Africans arriving in Charleston does not mean they entered indigenous territory. They were moved inland. They were placed on Indian land. It simply means the English had a coastal unloading point. So this is what it does not mean. It does not mean they entered indigenous territory. It does not mean they were moved inland. It does not mean they were placed on Indian land. And it does not simply mean the English had a coastal unloading point. It simply means, that the English had a coastal unloading point. They were on the coast. They weren't on the land. So those damn Africans never came on the land. Oh, they were on the damn coast. Because that's where the part of Charleston where they were. They didn't have the whole goddamn, man, y'all got to listen. I'm telling you. Let's keep listening. 4, the interior of the Carolinas remained indigenous well into the 1700s, even after African arrives at Charleston. The Yamasee War nearly destroyed the colony. In 1715 to 1717, the Tuscarora War, 1711 to 1715, showed Native military dominance. The Catawba Confederacy controlled Piedmont. The Cherokee controlled the damn mountains. The English were confined to the goddamn coast. So Africans were not being marched into Catawba land, Tuscarora land, Yamasee land, Cherokee land, or PD land. The English did not have that power. The English lacked the power to import Africans into indigenous territory in the Carolinas. The shipping records only show Africans arriving at Charleston, not Africans entering the interior, not Africans replacing indigenous populations, not Africans being settled in native land. The English had a port, not a colony. Y'all listen, the English had a port, not a colony. The indigenous nations had the land, the power, and the sovereignty. This explains the biggest historical truth. Most Black or mulatto people recorded in the Carolinas in the 1700s were indigenous because the English mislabeled Native people. The English erased Native identity on paper. The English used racial categories to collapse Native nations. The English could not distinguish dark-skinned Native people from Africans. The English needed to control Native populations through paperwork. So the records do not reflect the actual population. The land does. Facts. The English did have a colony in South Carolina, but now listen, y'all, but they did not control the land outside of Charleston. That's the key distinction. They had a colony on the goddamn coast, y'all. had the colony on the coast. They did not have control over the interior. They had a port, Charleston. That's all they had. They did not have sovereignty over indigenous territory. It was on the coast. The coast is on the water. They didn't have nothing on the land. They didn't have no colony on the inland. Now go look where the damn coast is. Oh. Now let's learn why the English couldn't import Africans into indigenous controlled Carolinas. We're going to learn a colony on the coast is equal to, listen, y'all, a tiny English settlement that hugs the shoreline, not the land. It means the English lived only along the water in a small fortified town with ships, docks, and a few streets, surrounded on all sides by indigenous territory. Do you now know what a colony on the coast is? I'm going to read it again. What I mean, you got to understand the distinction between a colony on the coast and inland. Our ancestors were running around on the inland. They were on the damn water. They were on I'll go back. The English did not have a colony in South Carolina, but they did not control the land. They had a colony in South Carolina, I'm sorry, but they didn't control the land outside of Charleston. That's the key distinction. They had a colony on the coast. They did not have control over the interior. They had a port, because they was on the water. They did not have sovereignty over indigenous territory. That being said, a colony on the coast is equal to a tiny English settlement that hugs the shoreline, not the land. It means the English lived only along the water in a small fortified town with ships, docks, and a few streets, surrounded on all sides by indigenous territory. Think of it like this. A coastal colony is equal to a beach outpost, not a full colony with control over the land. The English had a port, a fort, a governor's house, a few streets, some warehouses, a church, and a market square. Go look for that area in Charleston. That's it. Everything beyond that little circle was indigenous land, indigenous law, indigenous power. Facts. So now you know all them darkies running around. The whole South Carolina was Indians. These people, see, they put it in your mind like, oh, they got Charleston. They live on the land and boo, boo, boo. No. They had a port. That's what they had. And their little colony consisted of a governor's house. They had a port, a fort, a governor's house, a few streets, some warehouses, a church, and a market. That's it. Everything beyond that little circle was indigenous land, indigenous law, indigenous power. They were in the area because of the trading purposes. A coastal colony is basically, we live here, but we don't run anything beyond this fence. So in South Carolina, they control Charleston. They did not control Catawba land. They did not control Yamasee land. They did not control Cherokee land. They did not control PD land. They did not control the interior at all. The English had a toe in the water, not a footprint on the land. Again, the English had a toe in the water, not a footprint on the land. So when you get these little goofies like YK, and I'm talking about all these Africans, let's know what the area is they had in Charleston. They had a damn port in a little area. That's it. A port, a fort. That's it. All the rest of the area, and they was on the coast. So whoever live in South Carolina, go look at the damn land and say, well, I'll be damned. So when we say they had a colony on the coast, it means they had a settlement, not a territory. They had a port, not a province. They had a harbor, not a homeland. They had a presence, not power. And that's why they could unload ships at Charleston, but they could not move Africans inland into indigenous territory. The port was English. The land was indigenous. That's the whole truth in one line. Facts. I'm going to read it again. This is why I say we can start our own and tell our truth. Again, why the English couldn't import Africans into indigenous controlled Carolinas. So when we say they had a colony on the coast, it means they had a settlement, not a territory. They had a port, not a province. They had a harbor, not a homeland. They had physical presence, but they had no power. And that's why they could unload ships at Charleston. But they could not move Africans inland into indigenous territory. The port was English. The land was indigenous. That's the whole truth in one line. Facts. So now we go here when we say, founded in 1670, centered around Charleston, backed by British Crown, run by Barbarian. We already read that. The interior, you got the exterior and you got the interior. But that colony was tiny and coastal. It did not extend into Catawba land, Yamasee land, Tuscarora land, Cherokee land, Petey land, Waccamaw. The interior was indigenous territory. So Africans arriving at Charleston stayed in the coastal zone. They were not marched into indigenous territory, replacing native populations settled on Indian land, because the English had no authority to do that. The English controlled Charleston, a port, but they did not control the indigenous interior. Africans arrived at the port, not in Indian territory. That was where they had the Africans. That's where their asses was at. So, I told you I was not going to make my segments long, but this is going to be in the newspaper. You don't need federal recognition to restore your identity, honor your ancestors, or correct your record. If you want to rebuild what was erased, start, like I said, by organizing your community and establishing a 501c3 so your work has structure, protection, and access to funding. From there, you can begin correcting historical narratives, challenging colonial misclassifications, and restoring the truth or who your people were. Documenting erased histories, preserving family records, oral traditions, land ties, and community memory. Indigenous storytelling, sharing your culture, language, and lived experience in your own voice. Archival restoration, reclaiming documents, photographs, and records that were altered, mislabeled, or ignored. Community research, investigating local histories, census records, court documents, and land archives. Public education, teaching your community, your children, and the wider public the truth that was hidden. Now, let's go back here for a minute. We can go way back here to girly, girly, girly. Now, let me tell you something about this time and this land. We can go back to our little girlfriend here. First of all, there's another one. Let me take this down. We're going to talk about some stuff that is so important, and y'all got to catch. It's us that got to fix this. It's easy to correct and catch the errors from other people. What happened here? Why won't this go down? Just did this yesterday. All right, background here. This did this to me. Yes. Okay, here it is. We're going to go here, y'all. Now, this woman is standing on a damn coastal. Hampton. That's okay. Hampton. She lived in that area. Okay. She's in a courthouse on that little coastal area because that's where they was. Her land was. Now, think about it. She spoke Algonquin. She was bilingual. They spoke Algonquin in those days. Let me take this down again. Just put this picture in your mind and look at her and him. In them days, in the 1600s, they spoke Algonquin. She spoke Algonquin. So if they're in a court, and the thing about it, the chiefs required that they learn English too, so that they could communicate with the English. So she was bilingual. She had to be in order to go to the court to fight for her husband. She was speaking Algonquin. All those areas from Virginia all the way to Canada were Algonquin speaking people. That woman spoke Algonquin. She was a free colored woman in Indian Territory. She spoke Algonquin, y'all. And they call it Virginia Algonquin. Look it up. So she in the court, she was bilingual. Now, her husband, they lied and said he was born into slavery. That's what the English wrote, because when you went out there, they was capturing people. So like any other instance, dude went out, probably went fishing, hunting, whatever, and got caught. And word got back, his wife went to go. She owned him. Y'all got to understand this. She was bilingual. In those days, in the 1600s, she wasn't no African speaking Algonquin. She was a free colored woman living in her own home with her 7 kids. And we're gonna get into all these women that own their husband. They did it for a reason, to protect them. Oh, the colored folks, free colored folks. These, when we say words and use words like free colored folks, Negroes, we're using the choice made by the English. They wasn't gonna write down, oh, Algonquin speaking lady or Powhatan and all those other, no, because they spoke English and they wasn't trying to, they were not required to learn Algonquin because they had their own little thing on the coast. They lived on the damn water. They was not inland. So the Powhatan chief didn't give a damn if they live on the water, because the Powhatan chief, number one, they needed the Powhatans for food, for every goddamn thing. So the Powhatans look at them as a pitiful people. You read all this is in there. I swear, I'm like, oh my God. But when you came out in their territory, it was in there, they were capturing people. And I said, well, why wouldn't the Powhatan chiefs do something about this? What was her husband doing where he went out and they captured him and took him on the coast and kept him and documented as his? Lie. This woman fought for 20 years to get her husband back that she owned. And it's so many more. So imagine that. Imagine that. And they expanded. This is wild. It's so much information out there that can be fixed. But I'm going to put the link in the chat because I said I'm not going to stay on here long. But I felt that this is so interesting. And to learn that, the way history taught it was so bad, y'all. These people literally were not inland when you said Charleston. They were on the coast and they lived on what you call like a wetland area. And it wasn't even that big. And they lived literally near their port because they were good for trading. But inland, no control. They only had control of the port area. I was thinking, oh, they had the whole, I'm like, oh, even their records say that. And I had to get a reality check. I literally thought that they had the entire Charleston, and it's just not true. They only had the port area. Wherever that port is, and people live, I'm going to go visit that area. Now, we're talking 1600s. Hey. So I'm going to put the link in the chat. I don't mind dialogue because I thought that this was so interesting to learn. And when you get in to read the stories, I'm like, wow. Mind blower. Mind blower. And then in South Carolina, even freaked me out even more for so many lies that these little goofies like YK and that little Pan-African crew. That's why I said, I mean, I know Trump said that he would deport people that say that they hate America. I really wish he would deport the Pan-Africans. Just make it a law. If you hate, you get them out of here. Get the Pan-Africans out of here. Do you not realize how much space we'll have if we get the Pan-Africans out of here? Send their asses to Somalia. Serious. because the Pan-Africans are the ones that's causing for many years this problem with our people. They did not, I'm telling you, and even their records show it. They did not import Africans on the mainland. They never had control back then. It was all Indians enslaved here. And we're going to read all that tomorrow. We read a little bit about it today, but I'm going to do it day by hour. I'm not going to do any more 4-hour segments. I can't do it. If I do that, then I don't have room in the mental to write the newspapers, y'all. It's going to be 1 hour. Facts. But I opened the chat for a few minutes and let you up. I appreciate Bat for sharing the panel. This is something to talk about. And all this is in their historical society. I didn't write this and make this up. I didn't. Algonquin, all those people back then. And they describe, oh my goodness. Where's that other paper that I had? Let me see. It was so interesting. Let me see if I can find it. I'm going to turn a little music on and put the link in the chat. Give me a minute, y'all. Copy. Oop, I'm putting the wrong thing up here. I'm putting this link in the chat. I'm like, this was so interesting to me. There's the link. I'm going to take a little music break and wait for y'all to come up. Just sit tight in the back if I'm not back in your time span. Why is this not here? Oh my God. I can't even get my stuff. Why won't this roll up? I'll be back. I'll be right back. Okay, so I I started a letter to write a letter because I was like, so like, why, who are these people writing this? And it doesn't make sense. Why would they even put this information out in their historical society? And it doesn't make sense because there's so many unanswered questions. And I began putting together let me put this up right here, a professional letter, and I'm going to read it to you, and said that I was going to send it to them. But then I said, you know what? I don't have to do that. So let me read y'all what I wrote, but I'm not going to mail it. I'm saying, you know what? I don't have to do that. All I have to do, and this is the part where I tell you, all we have to do is correct this. That's all. We don't even have to contact these people. But I'm going to read what I was going to read to you what I was going to write them. Subject: Question on early Virginia courts, territorial jurisdiction, and indigenous sovereignty. Dear Encyclopedia Virginia editorial team, I hope this message finds you well. I am writing to request clarification on how your entries present English legal authority and court structure in early colonial Virginia, particularly in the very early 1600s and the very early 1700s. Several entries, including free blacks in colonial Virginia, describes courts being held in certain buildings and refer to legal categories such as free people of color, as if English law and courts operated in a stable, fully built out system across Virginia during those periods. However, historical reality of the early 1600s and early 1700s appears far more limited and fragmented. English settlements were actually small, coastal, and fragile. The Powhatan Confederacy and other indigenous nations still held territorial, political, and military power over most of what is called Virginia. English courts could only function where there were enough colonists, buildings, and actual control on the ground. Given this, I am struggling with the way some narratives imply that courts were regularly held in established buildings and that English law broadly governed the region, when in fact, the number of colonists in the very early 1600s was quite small. Many of the official buildings described seem to post date the early legal timeframes being discussed. The majority of the land was still indigenous territory under indigenous governance, not under consistent English jurisdiction. This raises a few questions I hope you might address or clarify. One, when you describe courts meeting in specific buildings in the early 1600s, are those descriptions based on contemporaneous structures from that exact period or on later reconstructions assumptions? Number two, how does Encyclopedia Virginia account for the gap between the small number and limited reach of English colonists and courts in the very early 1600s and early 1700s, and the broad legal and racial categories, including free people of color, that are often discussed as if they applied uniformly across Virginia? And number three, how do you factor in the continued sovereignty and active presence of Powhatan Confederacy and other indigenous nations when describing the scope of English legal authority in these early periods? I am particularly interested in how your editorial and scholarly process handles the distinction between land claimed by the English on paper and land actually controlled and governed by English courts in practice. Acknowledging the gap seems crucial for accurately understanding how, when, and where racial and legal categories were imposed and on whom. Thank you for your time and for the work you do in making Virginia's history accessible. I would greatly appreciate any clarification or sources you can share on these points and whether future updates might address this jurisdictional and geographic nuisance more explicitly. So I'm like, that's the letter I was going to send him. I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to bother. It's so not worth it. Because, I know by sending them that I cracked open the question historians tiptoe around, because they tiptoe around that. They're going to tiptoe around it. Okay? Because number one, the English did not speak Algonquin. The Powhatan spoke, these are my notes, the Powhatan spoke Virginia Algonquin, and the English did not understand it. Powhatan people did speak multiple language. Okay? Virginia Indians spoke multiple language, often because of trade, diplomacy, and warfare. And this is key. Indigenous people were multilingual. Colonists were not. The English relied on interpreters, especially indigenous ones. Okay? The English and Powhatans exchanged boys to learn each other's language and serve as interpreters. So in early Virginia, Powhatan people often spoke Powhatan and English. English colonists usually spoke only English. Courts depend on indigenous interpreters. communication flowed one direction, indigenous to English. By 1703, many indigenous people in the Tidewater were bilingual, not because they wanted to be, but because trade required it, diplomacy required it, survival required it, colonial courts required it. The English forced English into legal spaces. So any indigenous person dragged into court had to use English or an interpreter. That's when going in their little area. So I asked the question, how did Jane Webb communicate in court? And they said, that based on evidence, she likely spoke Algonquin in English. Indigenous people in that region were multilingual by necessity. If she preferred Algonquin, the court would have used an interpreter. This was standard practice in early Virginia courts and diplomacy. The English court system assumed the burden was her, not them. So the court didn't speak Algonquin. They expected her to speak English or rely on an interpreter. So, and then it gets into, here's the part that exposes the whole mess. The English courts were, listen, y'all, sitting on Powhatan land, judging Powhatan descended people, using English law, using English language, while the people they judged were indigenous and bilingual. And the colonists themselves were monolingual and clueless about Algonquin. This stuff has to be fixed, y'all. It's like, this is why the whole system was a colonial fiction. They pretended they had jurisdiction. They pretended they understood people. They pretended their categories, free, Negro, mulatto, slave, applied. But the truth, they were running a court in a land where they were the linguistic minority. So we're busting up a mess here. I'm uncovering truth. It's a mess, y'all. It's a mess. A whole mess. So without further ado, I'll be back with all those wives that own their husbands. And it's so much to learn, you guys. And, I put myself to a side and decided that, I'm going to work things out within Waya, because I'm not going to, it makes no sense for me to combat with people who are saying they're African American. Okay. But I think you use that lightly, because the way Trump's going and him getting pissed off with these people from Somalia and stuff, y'all better be careful, because Trump ain't playing. Because I'm waiting actually for the day when he says, you know what? You're African American and is truthful. He gonna start shipping you out of here. And he can do that. Just send them to Africa. Fine. If you hate our country so much, then you shouldn't be here. And that's a fact. I mean, how do you talk about the United States, right? Being from another country, and then turn around and ask for the goddamn benefits? And I don't even have enough time today to get into the shit that's going on in Minnesota. That's disgusting. That is disgusting. What I want to ask the Trump administration to do when it comes to that, seeing that they got all these billions of dollars in our damn food stamps. The problem is, okay, Mr. President Trump, what I think President Trump should do is, if they have multiple wives, they can't bring their asses over here. You ain't gonna have like 10 wives and then move in a community and all your kids by that wife getting food stamps. Oh, hell no. Pick one. And if you want to come to this country, you got to conform to this country's ways. I'm sorry. You're not coming over here with your 15 wives and 20 wives, and then all of them wives go apply for food stamps. No. If you come over here, you come with one wife. For real. That's what needs to be fixed, Mr. President. Because, if they're coming over here with multiple wives, and in our country, we don't allow that. So if you come over here and you got 20 wives and you calling yourself going in there applying for food stamps, only one wife is being accounted for. And that's it. Tell your other 20 wives to get a job to feed their kids, because ain't nobody told. We're not a communist country, and that's not the life that we practice over here. And then to come over here and talk shit about our country, you need to be gone. So that's one of the things that if I was, near President Trump, or hopefully his administration is listening, if they got 20 wives, they're not bringing 20 wives over there because we're not feeding them with all their damn kids. Secondly, I think the next thing that I would ask the president is, when it comes to registering the army, I'm sorry, I believe 50-year-olds should be able to register in the army. If our men that are in their 50s want to register and be in the army and want to make our army even more powerful, and if they're 50 years old and they decide that they want to devote their life to our army, our Navy, Marines, Air Force, then let them. There should be 50-year-olds, men and women. Hey, Mr. Trump, they can kick ass. They can beat people ass. They're not too old. I'm sorry. 50-year-olds will beat the shit out of 20-year-olds. And that's a fact. And I think that they should allow 50-year-old men and women, if they want to enroll in the armed services, they're still in their right set of mind. They have the agility to fight. Let them. Right now, it's at 26-year-olds. There are so many 50-year-old men that will beat the rat shit out of a 26-year-old dude. I know I have a lot of power as a woman, and I know I could fight. My father taught me how to fight. And yes, I fight like a man. And I'm not weak. There are a lot of 50-year-old women and men that have the agility of 20-year-olds. Facts. So if they want to retire their jobs at age 50 and decide that they want to register to be in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, whatever, let them, Mr. President. They want to stand on their country and continue to let the United States be the most powerful country in the world. Let the 50-year-olds. Look, honey, today, Mr. President, 50-year-olds is like 20-year-olds. You got 20-year-old girls dating 50-year-old men. Mr. President, let the 50-year-olds. I mean, I want our army to be powerful. Serious. If a 50-year-old man walks up, and as long as they could pass that damn agility test, it should not be no stipulations on whether they could give their life to their country. 50-year-old might say, you know what? I want to donate 5 years of my life and serve in in my country's army for 5 years. A 50-year-old. By the time they get out and say, okay, I'm 55-year-old. If they want to keep going, let them go. Because there's some 60-year-olds that kick ass too. Mr. President, Let them. So if we start hearing in the news, you listen out, you guys. If you start hearing in the news that the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines said, look, if you want to donate your life to the Army, Marines, you want to be in it, you could be 50 years old. Come and sign up. They ain't got to worry about no damn draft. There's a lot of 50-year-olds that said, you know what? I'm not really doing shit. I want to give my life, part of my life, to our militia. Let them, Mr. Trump. That's teaching discipline. I like that. Because, see, only somebody who has a problem with the United States system. I do not have a problem with the United States system. Because in dealing with our people, it's been really tough. And, it's hard to get our people to cooperate. So I understand. I mean, if you can't get your own people to come together and cooperate, you have to get with like-minded people. That's where it results to. And I'm not into raising no 30, 25, 35, 45-year-old adults. I'm not going to treat you like babies. I feel at that age, you should be mature minded. If you act like a young kid and you don't, have an adult mindset to come together and plan something civilly, I can understand why a lot of our people said, fuck it. And I'm talking, when I say our people, a lot of Indians said, fuck it. I'm just going to be part of the United States as a citizen and make it work for me and my family. I can understand that because of the way our behaviors are on the panels with each other. So this is why I don't have a problem with the system. You're born, you grow up, you get your elementary education, your middle school education, your high school education, you go off to college to enhance your education. Then you either come out, open your own business, or you work for somebody else. I don't think that's a bad thing. You got a problem with working for other people in their companies, then look, it ain't meant for you to work for somebody in somebody else's corporation. Start your own business. For real. You have the right to start your own business. I don't mind raising a kid in that lifestyle. Again, go to preschool, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, and then college. Times are different today than it was way back then. Some people learn the 16 and 1700s and actually act like they're still there in those times. That's because you have the teachers who here in YouTube that keep them stuck in those times. You owe me money when they really don't owe you shit. Whose failure was it to lose power in their own fucking land? I mean, I see people like myself and other people making the right choices and not getting caught up in bullshit. You know, nobody can influence me to sell drugs. You just can't. I swear I'll cut your ass out so bad. Nobody can influence me and persuade me and entice me to do something that I don't fucking want to do. Back in the day, I lost a lot of boyfriends because I didn't like that lifestyle. And I didn't like being around it. And that was my choice. I liked the opportunity to go to work and go to school and take care of my daughter. Other people didn't like that opportunity. I can't make grown men and grown women do right. I can't. I can only advise and try and persuade. But if an old dog don't want to do it, an old dog don't want to do it. That's why I don't got dogs for a pet. don't got time to train old dogs that don't want to be trained. That's not me. I got to move on, because when I waste my time and wait for other people to join in and help, I waste so much time losing out on other opportunities that I know that are available for why I can't do it no more. This is why I won't join other organizations that lately established themselves. I done moved far on beyond that. So I don't have the mental health to encourage people to do back in 2019 when I came on YouTube. I don't have that no more. I'm done. I can only share. And if you either want it or you don't. But when you start seeing me in the news, and why, don't fucking say I didn't try. For real. Because now I'm in the mode where it's time to move on. I'm serious. Talk. I can't do it. And it's some things are just so disgusting when you look back and watch. It's like I can't. I'm done. It's like I'm done. But honestly, what I can truly say is I appreciate everybody that comes over here to watch me. For real. I'm only sharing what I can, and you can make it make sense. It's too many people in our community running around telling you who the fuck you are in our community. All right. We already have foreigners, so-called foreigners, trying to tell our story that we have to fix. But then when you get the people that look like you that are from your community coming with this bullshit stuff, I can't deal with it. It's in like, I'm not Hebrew Israelites. I don't give a damn what you say. I'm not a Hebrew Israelite. I'm not a child of Israel. All right. And I really think our people look funny as hell walking around in New York in them fucking long robes like they saw on the movie in the Ten Commandments. Look, let's keep it a buck. The Jews, all right, they're in power when it comes to that Hebrew, and not y'all. Y'all broke niggas walking around in New York, and y'all look like goofballs. Somebody come up to me, are you Islam? No, I am not. No. I have Jewish friends that I grew up with all my life who are Jewish, who practice that way of life. Nobody in my family ever practiced that life. So ain't no black dude walking around in New York in them funny outfits like the Ten Commandments gonna come up to me and tell me that I'm a Hebrew Israelite. Because I'm not. I'm American Indian. Well, this is the Hebrew. Man, y'all go ahead with that shit. Because y'all sound really, really, truly define the definition of someone who's had special education. Seriously. I don't have a bad Jew story. I don't have a negative Jewish story. Jewish people have always been kind to me. I don't discriminate. But I'll be damned if my grandsons will ever walk around in the in United States with them long fucking robes on, like they saw the movie Ten Commandments. That's mental health to me. I'm serious. I'm serious. Y'all look like the damn fools. Y'all need to leave the white Jews alone, because y'all look goofy. Even the white Jews don't walk around wearing the robe like on Moses in the Ten Commandments. I'm the day I see a Negro that look like me walking around with two goddamn tablets talking about these the Ten Commandments, I'm done. I'm putting y'all ass in the hospital. Serious. Especially if I know your nappy ass head grew up in the hood with me, and now you walking around with 2 Ten Commandment tablets talking about these 10 Commandments, our ancestors. No, this is the problem in our community. They think they're all these other fucking characters, and it's really driving me nuts. We're not from the Middle East. We not no Muslims. We not. Nobody in my family ever said Assalamu alaikum. That's the Middle East. Your fucking ass was from here. Don't have nothing against them, but that's not our people. Now, is it a disciplinary culture? Yes, it is. But damn, let the people who originally practice it. Now, this is why the problem I had with Malcolm X and Farrakhan and them. We're not Muslims. We're not from the Nation of Islam. I don't know no damn Honorable Elijah Muhammad or whatever that shit is. To me, when I saw his picture on the wall, when my uncles would have, I would see him in the Jet magazine. It was a black dude with shades on. And I'm like, wait a fucking minute. He's not from the Middle East. Talking about some Assalamu alaikum. What the hell? Last I checked, Malcolm X had to go over there. So if you had to go over there to learn about that culture, then that means that shit wasn't for you. Your culture is right here. So that's another divide of our people in our community. Then you got our people who are Baptists. That's not our culture either. Indians did not practice Christianity. We didn't. Number one, I never had the Holy Ghost and shouted. That irritates me. So it was an area I was not accustomed to. So I'm sorry. That was brought here. And y'all niggas went for it. I'm sorry. I'm not a Baptist. I don't know about the Holy Ghost and the shouting and all that. No. Again, y'all look like clowns. I'm sorry. So that's the biggest divide in our community. I'm sorry. I don't know anything about speaking in another tongue and a guy supposedly coming back with wrath and fight. Y'all believe that stuff. I can't. It fucks up your real sense of thought. That's a way to get niggas in suits to control you and to control your thoughts. This is why you can't get nowhere outside of that. Because your mind has been taken, somebody's took control over your mind. So that's not me neither. So I'm never, ever going to claim a religion that's not indigenous to this land. I only claim if you focus on what's indigenous to this land, you be all right. Now you got clowns teaching, oh, well, this is really Egypt. This is really Egypt. What the fuck? And they don't even give the right proof. I don't get it. I really don't. People in our community are teaching. This is why it's a problem. People in our community are, oh, this is Egypt. Oh, the map's upside down. The South is really the North, and the North is really the South. Man, y'all need to stop smoking weed from them little dispensary centers because that's really fucking y'all up. Now y'all saying, they saying, oh, the map is upside down. This is what happened when a nigga is not sober and they smoking weed. And I'm speaking in Indian language in our hood. That's what happens. You get a nigga who done got some good weed, and now he can interpret the maps. Yep. The Mississippi, you see that crack? That's really the Mississippi map. You mean if you look at the Mississippi, that's the motherfucking line. That crack right there, that's where Moses split the river. And yo, man, y'all gotta stop smoking. That's embarrassing, and nobody else teaches that shit but y'all. This is what I mean when I say our community's lost. It's a lot of shit I can't relate to, and I will not. And I'm glad my ancestors made me this way so that I could explain things better to our people in a way that they understand. Now, I'm not judging you because you smoke weed because they made the shit legal, but a lot of that weed is fucking y'all up. Y'all start seeing spirits and shit. When you start talking about, oh, Utah is Judah, you know what? That means stop smoking or stop drinking. Seriously, that's embarrassing. We are not the people from the Bible. How the hell is a foreign group of people going to introduce you to the Bible and then all of a sudden you become the characters? First of all, from my understanding of reading and comprehension, when Jesus in the Bible, because to me it's a book, it's an old historical book that was written, and Jesus is talking in the Bible, he's talking to 12 dudes, y'all. 12 dudes. All right. So you're looking at the Bible to me another way. He's talking to 12 dudes, what they call them disciples. Y'all not the fucking disciples. I mean, seriously, you got niggas in the hood running around talking about, oh, I'm reincarnated as Peter. No, the fuck you ain't. I'm one of the 12 disciples. No, you not. You a black dude who came out of black woman that looked like me, and you read the book, and it made your ass either goofy or schizophrenic. You ain't not one character in the Bible. That's a book. If I write a book, are you going to become the characters in my book? This is the part where I'm saying you got to wake up. If a book was brought here, it's not indigenous to this land. I don't go to black churches in my community. I don't. Because I'm never going to get up and shout. No pastor's never going to touch me in my forehead and I'm going to pass out like I got the Holy Spirit. Y'all got is bad. This shit is bad, man. And then you wonder why our sons don't go to these churches. It's bloodline that our sons are born natural warriors. That's probably why they can't go to church. It doesn't resonate in their bloodline. Happy New Year. And I'm not going to do it. Then they get into the point where they talk about AI. Damn, it's just a tool. You got niggas that smoke weed, right? Negroes, brown guys that smoke weed, and then they get up and try to interpret AI. Yeah, AI. They're about to replace your ass. Why not? You ain't gonna work any goddamn way. They get all these. I'm telling you, weed does something, and maybe that's why they legalized it. But it really does something to the men and women in our community. They start getting all these elevated points in life, and then when that shit wear off, they start bugging out. They got to go get some more weed and smoke so that they could go on another dimension or in another fucking realm. I don't smoke weed. I have to be in all my right senses. I don't even drink alcohol or wine. I got to have my full senses Because when I had, being that I have my full senses, I've always been a person to sit back and I read people, and I had that habit since I was little. My mother used to have to pop me for staring at people. When I was staring at, I wasn't admiring them. I was reading them, and I just had a gift like that. I could really, really read people. I guess I get it from my father, and I tend to make people uncomfortable when I was little, but I get it from my father. I stare at people, and I saw things that I couldn't understand as a kid. You know, because I was always reading them. If I seen evil in them, I could read it. I don't know. It was just in me. And I was stare. It was not because I was admiring their ass. It's because the reading that I was getting from staring at them and analyzing them was fucked up. I couldn't say nothing as a child, but that's how I am as a being. I don't stare at people because I think they're sexy and fine and cute. I'm staring because I'm analyzing them. And I've always been one to just silence myself when I'm dealing with people. I give like one word sentence or 2-word response to keep myself safe. I don't want to get in no arguments. I just give 1 or 2 words and just stay silent. Especially I had to, because our environment is so defensive and offensive that I just learned to isolate. I don't like uh arguments. I really don't. But I have to step away from people who dwell on that. There's a lot of people that want attention real bad. And it's sad because you can analyze their life. Damn, you doing all this to get attention. How old are you? And when you see the person is in your age era and acting like 16-year-olds, is crazy as hell. I'm like, this person never matured. Why are they acting like this? If you're so fucking happy and content and straight in life, your behavior in public tells a different story. It does. And people are mad. I don't know all this other crazy stuff. I'm just not into. I don't know shit about Egypt. Yeah, I'm sorry. All I know is this landmass here on mainland North America. This is the only land I know. I'm not interested in any other lands because I don't care. If you focus on your own land, I like me, I appreciate where I'm from. I love this country. I love this landmass. And I'm like, if you hate the country you're in so much, then leave. Why won't you leave? And I say the same thing about people that come here from other countries. If your country is so beautiful and so this and so that, then why are you here? Why do you come all the way over here and leave your beautiful country and then come over here and talk shit about this one? How come you won't retreat? That's all I want to know. Why don't you retreat and leave? That's why I don't have time to sit up on my piano and just talk about another race of people. I don't have time to sit up on my piano talking about the white man this, the white man. Look, you worry more about the white man than they worry about your fucking ass. I can tell you that right now. White people are not sitting home talking about your greasy, no job having ass. I can tell you that right now. You thinking more about them than they ever would think about you. This is the brother and the sister I can't relate with and deal with. That brother and that sister that blames every fucking thing on the white guy instead of taking accountability for themselves. Them are the people in my community that I listen to me. I'm speaking in our community language. Those are the people in my community I can't fuck with. I literally tell them in this language, stay the fuck away from me and leave me alone. If everything that happened in your life is the white man's fault, Sister Bethy wants you to stay the fuck away from her and unsubscribe. As you can see, I got a lot of subscribers, so I ain't hurting for none. I can't fuck with you. Every time, oh, the white man this and the white man that. And then your goofy ass got to turn around and go and get a job in one of their companies. This is the part of the community I can't deal with. I don't want you in dealing with me. I don't want you helping my organization. I'm serious. Until you learn to fucking take accountability for yourself. Because somebody taught you that the white man did this to you and the white man did that to you. Okay, if a white man did something to you, bring his fucking ass to court. First of all, you ain't even gonna fucking find him. You're going by what some other idiot in our community told you. You don't even know the fucking white guy he's talking about. And guess what? He don't know him either. So these are the people that I don't want around embarrassing Wire and me. Because y'all dumb as hell. Men and women my age are shameful. I'm so shameful and embarrassed by a lot of them because it don't make no sense. It does not make no sense for anyone to act like that. That's in my age era. Generation Z, we have a good Generation Z and we have a bad Generation Z. The good Generation Z is so wise. They're not a lot of Generation Z. They're not into that gang shit and wearing the pants on falling on the ground. They're into education. They're into politics. So now, I learned that, all right, there's just a population group in our community that we just got to let them fucking go. We got to let them go, y'all, because they're arrogant and they're going to always be like that till they fucking drop dead. I can't be and relate with them kind of people. I'm not going to fix them. I'm not Miss Fix It. I can't do it. When they start that with a white man, that's the motherfucker I got to get out. Oh, excuse me. See y'all later. I'm gone. I leave in a New York minute. I'm gone. I don't want to hear shit until you know how to account for your own short fucking comings. If you have to blame the white man, I can't fuck with you. I'm serious. It's your fault that you chose a negative life to live in this system, not the white guys. Go ask your parents, if they're alive, why you do the shit you do. So that's just where I'm at mentally. I don't have the mental intellect to deal with bullshit anymore. I'm going to take care. My choice is to take advantage of the opportunities, not negative advantage, scamming advantage, positive advantage of the opportunities that are afforded for Wire. I'm serious. I don't have time to join scammy people. I can't. Some of the motherfuckers in our community I can't stand. And I truly hope they go to jail when they teach scammy shit live. I'm serious. I hate it with a passion. I will never teach anybody in our community how to do something a scammy way. And first of all, the whole funny shit is, this is where you know the education level is this small. Because when you start fucking with IRS documents, boy, don't you know, the white boy is the master of catching your ass. Because they done did every fucking thing you already trying to do. So they know how to catch your ass, goofies. That's why they're in those jobs in the IRS. And they know when you fucking up because they're going to come for your ass. Y'all are goofy. Now, I can give you that good advice about the white man. Your ass is busted if you think you're going to fuck up with the IRS. Sorry, the white boy's coming for your ass. They done already did. Remember that bloodline in them being kicked out of Europe, the worst of the worst. They know all the tricks and the trades to that shit already. And they're going to come for your goofy ass. But I'm going to give you one tip to help you out. They like to wait 5 years and let you do your shit for 5 years so that when they come for your ass and you go to jail, you're going to do like 20 years in jail. Keep fucking with the white boys in the IRS. They're going to come for your ass. Yeah. So I'm just giving you that tip. You said, I've been doing this for years. Oh, and I bet you it ain't been 5 years yet. Because they're going to come for you and they're coming to get you. That's the shit I want to see on YouTube. For real. When they come for your ass in 5 years, somebody show me the video like that guy is going around in Somalia asking to get in their school system. They're going to come for you. So now I understand why you don't like the white guy, because he came for your ass. Not my problem. But I love y'all. See, I did 2 hours. I'm going to relax on this New Year's Day because I got to work tomorrow. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Remember, the language that I speak with my audience is the language that a lot of my community across the 50 states are accustomed, to vibing with. Doesn't necessarily mean that I can't be professional, but I like to vibe with my community. I like to meet them, speak with them in that manner. And I feel good when I'm able to comfortably speak with them. Otherwise, I don't want to be not accepted by my community. So when I'm in my own working environment, I act accordingly. When I'm in my professional work environment where I get paid from, I act differently. But when I'm on my own shit, I'm on my own shit. But how many people, it doesn't matter what your race is, act professionally at home? I know I don't. None of my Jewish friends, none of my Italian friends, none of my Irish friends, they'll be acting like they act at work. They worse than me. They be like, bitch, get out. No. They act normal at home like me. I got all races of friends that will call me no matter what. It should be Irish, Greek, French. What you doing, bitch? That's at home. Some of them are attorneys. Some of them are nurses. Some of them are doctors. These are my people that I deal with. And we don't act like that at home. We all act alike, no matter what our race is. Some people are truly old-fashioned church. Well, you shouldn't use that. Okay, I'm not a church girl. Respect that. Okay. But what I will do, I won't cuss in front of you no more when we're talking. But me and my buddies, my girlfriends, we act like this. If they're feeling kind of bad or down and they call me, it don't matter. I have a lot of friends of different races, guys and girls. They'll call me, bitch, you know what he did? Early in the morning, like 5 o'clock, because they know I get up early. So it's nothing to call me at 4 in the morning because that's when my day starts. That's why at night, at 8 o'clock, my ass be in the bed sleep because I'm a morning person. I'm not a night person at all, ever. And they'll call me, bitch, you know what he did? And they be loud as hell. It could be a doctor. One of my girlfriends, that's a doctor. That's how we talk with each other. But we don't do it at work. So that being said, I'll see you guys. Let me see, what's tomorrow? I don't think I'll be on tomorrow. I'm not sure because I got things that I have to do when I get off work. But I love you guys, and I hope you're able to dissect that information I gave, because a whole hot mess learning that the Africans your ass brought over here was all on the coast, not even on the land. You need a boat to get to where the Africans was. Girl, don't get me started. A hot mess. So love you guys. I'm out, and I'll see you guys maybe, next week when I start my 1 hour show, just like Candace. All right, guys, I'm out. Love y'all to the moon and back. Wire. Can't wait to meet y'all this month. It's on and popping. Facts. Oh, man. So, again, love you guys, and I'm out. Take it easy, everybody.